Yo, 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 what's up, everybody? It's your boy Isaac,
And this is your boy Bryce.
and we are brothers on tennis. And folks, we've got a good one for you today. We are super excited about this interview. We met this gentleman last fall at a UTS event, and all I'm gonna say is we yelled, "You need some brothers on tennis in your life," and guess what? It happened. Bryce, you know how geeked we were to see this brother. I'm gonna pass it to you to do an introduction so that we can get right into this.
Well, and anybody that's been following us for any period of time knows that the one thing that might be more important to us in tennis is like music and entertainment. So, this guy, is the combination of the two things that we love the most. And of course, we're talking about Mr. Kevin Frazier. You probably are aware of him from Entertainment Tonight, but a lot of you may not be aware of the extensive sports history he has in his background. Yeah. And so we want to talk about that a little bit. We've also got some common connections with the Cincinnati, Ohio area. So we're going to dive into that. But this should be a fun interview here. So Kevin Frazier, welcome to Brothers on Tennis.
First of all, thanks for having me. And I love that we will talk sports because sometimes it's terrifying when people are just like, you're the entertainment guy. And I'm like, whoa, easy now. Easy now. I do sports. Sports is my world. It's my background. Y'all need to understand that. So I'm excited to talk to you. When I saw you, I was like, I will definitely come on because I never get to talk tennis. Ever.
So man. Well, we're going to get into that for sure. Kevin, you talked about your sports background. Why don't we start there? Give the folks kind of your background as far as how you came up, how you were introduced to tennis, and all of the sports that you've been involved with.
Sure. Well, first of all, my father was a college basketball coach. So I have been involved with basketball all my life. And he coached at Morgan State University, University of Illinois, Delaware State. They won a national championship, the Division II national championship back in 1974 with a guy named Marvin, the Human Eraser Webster. You may remember that guy. He played for the Knicks for a second. But in the town I grew up in, Columbia, Maryland, we also had these two tennis centers. And when I was 12, I worked at the tennis center and learned how to play. So I started playing. And that was the unique thing about Columbia. It was this melting pot. It was a city that was designed and built by Edward Norton, the actor. His grandfather was the one who built the city, and our sister city is Reston, Virginia. But these communities were built to really kind of give you the optimal living experience. Kids could walk wherever they wanted to walk to. They could get to whatever they needed. And on each side of our city, we had these tennis centers. And so I grew up working at the Columbia Tennis Center, the East Side one, the one on the East Side. Y'all West Side folks, stay out of this. But I grew up playing tennis there, and I've always loved tennis, and I played tennis in high school. And I sucked. I mean, let's keep it real. I sucked, but I loved it. And, I was a basketball player, and that has been my whole life. But I love tennis, got deep down in my soul. And then finally, when I moved to California to work for Fox Sports, I lived at a complex where there were 5 tennis courts, and nobody was ever on the tennis courts because a lot of folks from death row lived in the complex. And so I would play tennis every day with this out of work actor, a friend of mine, and he could play, and we would go out and hit every morning. And so I really got into it. And now, all these years later, my wife and I belong to the LA Tennis Club. It's really one of the ways I met my wife, when we bonded over tennis playing, because she lived in New York City at the time, and she lived in Brooklyn, and she was like, we would go to tennis courts and hit balls and then, hang out. So the game is in my blood. And of course, I've worked for the Tennis Channel.
That is awesome. I a lot of that I did not know. And I'm sure most people didn't know. And I love that you played on your high school team. I love
we were bad. We were bad. Let me just say this now. We were trash. And we played with the old wooden rack. I had the old wooden, and I found one like not too long ago. The old wooden rackets. Oh, what was that racket called? The standard bearer that everybody had.
The Jack Kramer?
The Jack Kramer. Man,
Yeah.
I had a Jack Kramer. I'd be spraying the ball all over the place because the head was this big. Remember how big the head was on that
Right.
Jack Kramer? The Jack Kramer, if you didn't hit it pure, it was the problem. So when it cracks me up when kids see these old tennis highlights and they're like, they're hitting it so slow, they can't even hit. I was like, bruh, let me give you this Jack Kramer. And we have them, they have them at our tennis club, and you can take them out and try and hit with them. Good
Right.
luck. Try it now. Take a Jack Kramer out and try and hit with it.
Well, you know what, Kevin? I think we're all around the same age range.
Yep.
What I love to ask is, who were your tennis heroes when you were coming
Wow.
up? Like for me, it was all about Ivan Lendl and Martina Navratilova.
Yeah. Well, it first started with Arthur Ashe. Let's just say that is that, Arthur Ashe wasn't playing anymore, but I got to see the final years of his tournament play, and just the way he carried himself with such grace and dignity. It was beautiful. And in a sport where I rarely saw any Black folks, I was like, this man is really the standard bearer. And so I loved watching him so much. I loved watching him play, but I loved, even more importantly, who he was and who he became to the world after his tennis career. I mean, after that, I mean, there were everybody. I loved McEnroe. Lendo a little bit. I love Nastasi because I just liked he would wild out. I was just like, it's the best. He's losing his damn mind. Like he would go, I mean, literally, he would lose his mind. And back then, it's like nobody said anything, and all of a sudden, this dude is like, I don't give a damn. I'll say whatever. So I used to love watching him, but I mean, look, it was a lot of Macker. I just loved Johnny Mack because he was just another wild card. And and then as we went on, I love the flavor of Agassi. It's too bad that, I appreciated Pete Sampras later on in his career. And then out of the more recent group, Gael Monfils. I love Gael Monfils.
Come on
I
now.
love him.
Come on now.
I love him. And Gael, when he travels around the United States, he loves coming to the US because he can play basketball, because he loves the hoop. And we were talking one time at the Tennis Channel when I was hosting the show from Indian Wells, and Gael came on, and I was just like, dog, you really travel around and hoop? And he's like, I just played this morning. And I was like, you're crazy. You're in the middle of a tournament and you're hooping. But yeah.
Did you guys get a chance to play, Kev?
I never got a chance to play with him, and I wish I had. And if I ever see him again, I'll jog out and just hoist up a couple of jumpers because I can't mess with him athletically no more. I'll hurt myself. But I just love that how he brought athleticism to the court in tennis and the things he could do. And no one has broken my heart more than Gael Monfils. There were so many times he came close, and you're like, you have the gas to win. But then we realized he didn't. He would give you two amazing first sets, and then he would just tap the hell out. And you'd be sitting at home mad as hell because you're like, bruh, you had Federer on the ropes and you're tapping out. This is your time. Yeah. But I love Gael.
Did you see Gael play like right before the pandemic? Were you watching him in that little window? He was outstanding.
That was his moment.
That was his moment.
And that's what breaks my heart, is because I thought he would get over the hump and actually win a tournament. And it's just like Gael always, he'd give you 2 sets, then he'd win, then he'd lose 2 sets, and you'd be like, who the hell is this dude? And then in that 5th set, he would fight, and then you get to like game 4, and he'd just be like, man, I gotta go. And it killed me. You're sitting at home rooting your ass off. You're like, Gael, here you go. It's gonna happen. My man is coming in there.
Right. But we still love him, right?
I love him.
Yeah.
I just saw him. When we saw him at that event here in LA.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So much fun. So much fun.
Yeah, Gael is just the best. I mean, to me, he is one of our ultimates. I mean, as far as who you root for, who you cheer for, Gael Monfils brings all of that to the tennis court, like you said, the showmanship and the game, and the heartbreak.
God,
and thus, Kevin, while we give a little side eye now to FAA, because that little stuff he tried to spin up during the Labor Cup, he just don't know what side of the street he on. I mean, I'm just trying to tell you.
I I wanted this kid by now to be something special. And
Yeah.
I thought by now it would happen. You see that body, you see him hit the ball a couple of times, and you're like, oh, you're the next one. And
Right.
then he really will let you down. And I mean, no disrespect, but he will really let you down. And
Mhm.
I think that, he got part of that Canadian high. Canada had a moment where they thought
They
they
did.
were coming. They had
Yes.
Right.
3 or 4 that they thought were
Right.
coming. And
Hmm.
he was one of them. And now you see that whole generation is kind of started to peter out. And it's too bad.
It
Yeah,
really is.
yeah,
Yeah.
agree completely. We still hope that he can find that path, but like you
It's
said,
gone,
it's
gone, gone,
because
gone.
yeah,
And
when
no
you got the
disrespect.
Alcaraz, yeah, right,
No
right,
Well,
disrespect, but it didn't happen.
and he's made a good first step. He just recently let Tony Nadal go because we all know you can't have a coach where you're not their favorite player. So, I mean,
But
that's a good
is
first
it
step.
let me ask you this, is it a coach thing with him, or is it just that he doesn't have that dog in him? Like, there you see some of these guys that they're like, "Oh, but you thought you were gonna beat me? Oh, I
yep,
get it."
Right.
And that's
yep,
what you saw, and you saw that in from Connors to
Hmm.
McEnroe, you see it in Alcaraz, like it's a shocker when he loses. And
Right.
you see it in all the big dogs, and Nadal, come on,
Hmm.
Djokovic. I mean, all those listen, all those dudes have dog in them.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
And that's it.
I would say that with Felix, and I'll keep it brief. I think that he's got the mindset of a champion, but I feel like he needs to be able to build a plan B, plan C type of a game. His game is it's kind of like that James Blake game. It's all power
Mm,
all day, all the
mm,
time.
mm.
You
Hey,
got to have a plan B.
you know what?
Right.
Let me back up. When I said Gael hurt my heart the most, it's James Blake on those late nights at the US
That's
Open.
open.
And I
Hmm.
love JB, and I've had a chance to work with him at the Tennis Channel. And I think
Right.
that he really is a revolutionary person in the fact that he was the next step, I feel, in Arthur Ashe, and still is a very important voice in the tennis world. But I was the I was the fool that was up till 1 a.m. like, this is the night. This
Right.
is the night. It's about to happen. He's about to get over it. This is going to be it. And I'm going to stand up here and say, I'm not going to miss this. And
Right.
so, yeah, outside of Gael, those are the nights that hurt me the most is when he lost in those late nights at the Open.
Yeah.
Just took
Right.
the steam out of your win. And
So I
yeah,
have a question for you, kind of in this whole same vein.
yeah.
Do you have any insight as to why the U.S. has been more successful in creating African American women champions and maybe not so much African American men?
Well, I think that there's an interesting thing, and it's the hype train we all get on with the men and not so much the women.
Mhm.
Venus and Serena played so well for so long and dominated that, they came up and you said, well, there can never be another one like them. But you looked at the young girls and you said, okay, well, we've seen someone achieve at that high level to be the greatest
Right.
of all time. Because
Right.
people forget, and I try to remind people this all the time. When Venus came out, and I remember I was on Fox Sports when she played her first match up in Oakland at that great
Mhm.
Western, was it Great Western Open, right?
Yeah.
And I remember that first night, and we had the highlights and everything. And I also remember a little while later reading an article where her father talked about Serena, and they laughed at him. They laughed at him when he signed that Puma deal, when he said, well, it has a top 5 out and she gets X amount of dollars if she gets in the top 5 and this and that and this and that. And people were like, this is why this man should not be in charge, because he doesn't know what the hell he's doing. He's got a gold mine in Venus and he's talking about this other one's going to be better. And I try to remind everybody
Yep.
about that moment of Richard Williams knowing,
Mhm.
and also the tennis establishment disrespecting him like they did. But there has been a clear pipeline, and we have seen that pipeline of young Black women who've come along. and they continued. And you go back to Zena Garrison and all that.
Mhm.
There was a pipeline that has always continued. And whether it's everybody can't be at the top, but there was always a good group in the middle. I
Right.
am We are very close with Taylor Townsend. She stays at our house when she's here. We went to see her.
Nice.
That's why we were in the desert to see
Mhm.
Taylor. I love her to death. I love her story. I love what she's doing. And I love how she is fighting through without the
Mhm.
big sponsorship dollars. She is showing you that with her authentic self, when everybody wrote her off and said, girl, you just had a baby, you done.
Right.
She came back and she's doing it for all those mamas. So I love
Oh
Taylor so
yeah.
much and she means the world to me. But I just think that that's been the problem. And with Black men in tennis, we immediately lose our minds as soon as one starts playing well. As soon as any Black man gets close to winning a tournament, because what happened? Hold on, let me focus this camera. Okay, hold on. All right. As soon as one gets close to winning, we lose it. I mean, and that's the problem going on right now. Jill Smoller, who has worked forever with Serena
Right.
and Venus, and now she is working with
Yeah.
Tiafo.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah,
Tiafo.
yeah, Tiafo. She's like, it's very hard to keep their minds focused and locked in. And that's the thing you have to appreciate about Venus and Serena. For so long, they stayed locked in. And for
Mhm.
Francis, all of a sudden, he makes that run at the US Open, and the world is his oyster. Everywhere
Right.
he goes,
Right.
everybody wants him to do something. And so I think that's been the hard thing for any American Black male, that as soon as you start making a little bit of a run, everybody's
Mhm.
like, "You the greatest, you the next one. Here we go. We finally found him. He's gonna happen." And it goes all the way back to oh my God, what was our kid?
Oh, Donna Young.
Donald
Yep.
Young. Remember the articles and the conversations and how everybody was talking about Donald Young, and everybody said, "Oh,
Right.
Donald Young he's gonna change tennis and he's gonna be the greatest. He might be one of the greatest of all time," before Donald Young had even gotten his footing. And so
Right.
those are the things we have to look at, and we have to kind of be calm, y'all, and
Right.
relax. You know, one day a dude is sleeping in his van. The next day he's in the semifinals of Wimbledon, and they're like,
Right.
"Oh, he's gonna make it all the way to, he's gonna be a top 5 player." It doesn't happen like that. Sometimes you catch fire, you
Right.
get the right draw, and you roll, and you can't expect everybody to be everywhere at every time. Everybody doesn't have that kind of gas.
That's true.
That's a very true statement. Kevin, speak to us about sort of the mental framework that you see amongst the American men versus, again, the American women. Because thinking about what you just said, I
Yeah.
feel like with all of the stuff that came about with Tiafo, you look on the flip side and you look at a Coco Golf who
Yes.
has continued to have amazing results and
Mhm.
accomplishments, but her head is still locked in. So
Coco's
it
totally yeah, Coco is a totally different animal because she is locked in from the beginning. And
Mhm.
I believe that she has the stability of her family and not the insanity of her family. Because a lot of folks we know on tour, they have the insanity of her family. Her daddy and mama, they're just like, "Hey, baby, take this as far as you can go. Let's go, girl. But if we're going to do
Mhm.
this, we are going to stay and we're going to lock in and we're going to do the right thing." So I love that about her family. And everybody has to understand that she has that solid family base.
Yeah.
They traveled with her for so long and they were able to do things. And, her brothers are still back at home going to school and doing their thing, and the family includes them and everything. So I love that family that's around her. And I think that the mentality with Coco was like, look at what I have to play up to, Venus and Serena. These are the
Mhm.
standard bearers, and I have these other women to look up to. Whereas the men, they don't have that person to look up to. And with the women overall, the men and the women overall, I just think that I worked for years with Lindsay Davenport. She is one of my favorite people on the planet. Lindsay is incredible. She is so smart. She is an Ivy Leaguer who never went to the Ivy League.
Mhm.
But Lindsay and all these other women, you see, like they have edge. Like they have edge. And so when they're out there, they're like, this is mine and I'm going to go win because this is
Mhm.
mine. She told me a great story that, and I'm not gonna out the lady who it was, but she said she was winning at Wimbledon one time and she looked down and her opponent was crying because she was upset that she was losing. And Lindsay said it made her so mad because she was like, she wasn't gonna beat me. It made me really go out there and whoop her. And Lindsay said, I sat down and I looked over and she was crying like she should have been beating me. And that's what I'm saying is like, that's that mentality of like, oh, wow.
Right.
Oh,
Right.
oh, it's like that.
That's
And,
right.
and so I think that is what you see with the American women. And there's another interesting thing happening. I think that you see there's a group of American women, and who have an easier life, if you know what I'm saying. They don't have the trials and tribulations and the struggles and they didn't have to fight to get up there. They were well heeled and well backed from the very beginning. And I think that's stopping them from getting to the top right now.
Yeah.
No names need to be said, but I'm just saying, I love you. You're a good player, but I think that those are the problems that, we don't have that next layer. I wish that, I think that there's just always been a good pool of female players, and that's it. I mean, and you've had to be a dog if you want to get in that group.
Right. So keeping it with this whole American thing, why is it that in the US tennis is so unpopular in comparison to other countries? I mean, when you have a top athlete coming up in the US, they're going to think basketball and baseball and football first, right?
Yep. Well, that one's easy. That one's easy because tennis takes money. And tennis also is not a sport. Richard Williams was a genius. And he was not only a genius, he was a disciplined genius, because there are a lot of genius, smart people out there, but they don't have the discipline. He had the discipline, and he was there to teach his girls each and every day. It's expensive when your kid gets good to take them out and find the right coaching. And that is a real problem. So what we get people who have something to fall back on. If you come home and home is comfortable, then you are the struggle's not real. And that's what we see. Players from other countries, there's no second choice. If their parents have put in all this time and effort and energy, they're like, we got to make this happen. And if it doesn't happen, we may not eat. It's either we do this or you're going to help me change tires and we're going to, repair cars for the rest of our life. And so when they're out there, everybody's out there fighting like their life depends on. And so I think that that's the thing that you don't see the access. I mean, the access early on and then the access to the really good coaching. And that's a big problem. And the USTA has to figure that out. And, it's one of the reasons that I love what Kamau is doing in Chicago, because it's important how he's changing, and he does a smart thing. He'll have a top player, coaches come in, they're like, oh, we want to see Jane from, she lives out in the suburbs, but she's the number one ranked player. But he knows he got this girl that he's been cultivating from right down the way that can hit it, will blow Janie off the court. So the coaches come in, she's like, Janie, you hit with so-and-so. And the coaches come in, they're like, who is that? And why haven't we seen her? Well, her family can't afford to travel. They can't afford the tournament fees. They can't afford the coaching, but they come in and they see, and they're like, oh, wow. And so we just need more of that. We need more of that in our inner cities, and there has to be opportunity. Like Lisa Leslie's daughter, I can't wait to see what happens with her. Woo! They down there building a killer. Lisa Leslie is down in Florida with her husband building a killer.
Nice.
Just wait. Do you remember this conversation? Y'all will rewind this and be like, remember that time Kevin Frazier told us about Lisa Leslie's daughter?
Yeah.
Killer. Stone cold killer.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. All right. We're going to definitely need to be on the lookout for that.
She's going to be about 6'2", 6'3", because her mama's 6'4" and her daddy's 6'7". So,
yeah.
Look out. And the son's going to the league, but the daughter, she'll be a top player.
Wow. Now that is wild. I'm going to ask you another question about an American player, and I just want to get your quick thoughts. What do you think about Ben Shelton?
Oh my God, I love Ben Shelton. And here we go. Calm down, everybody. Calm down. Let's all calm down. Calm down. Because I love Ben Shelton. I get so excited to see Ben Shelton. I love watching him. I love his fire. I love his serving game. I love he has a little dog in him. And I like that about him. And I also love looking up in the stands how his daddy is. His daddy just be sitting back like
chilling. that's my boy.
Yep.
Ben will look over every once in a while, and his daddy will just be like, I love Ben Shelton. When I turn on the TV and I see Ben Shelton, I love it. I love Ben and Taylor together. When they're playing mixed doubles together, oh my God, it's two people who can play, but they also are out there having a good time. And that's the other great thing is that it hasn't become a job to Ben yet. The world is still so fresh and new.
Right.
And I love that. I hope that he never loses that, because there are players who never lose that, who are just like, I just want to go play. What you got to do today? I got to go play, and I'm ready. And I hope he doesn't lose it. But I love Ben Shelton.
Well, I tell you what, speaking of that combo, that Olympics, that could be a great mixed doubles team for the United States.
An amazing mixed doubles team for the United States. I mean, we're headed over to we have to go to Spain this summer. We're going to try and pop into Wimbledon and see Taylor and see her go to work. But I mean, I nothing would make me happier than to see her walking into the stadium at the Olympic Games. It would be a moment where you understand someone who has worked their ass off to get everything they've gotten. And it would be a beautiful moment because she's great.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. Now, speaking of fun, we met you and Ben at Patrick Maratoglu's UTS event last year in Carson. What do you think about that event? A different format?
It was fun. I mean, everybody has to understand, like, there are the majors and the important tournaments, and then there was fun. And that was a night of fun, and you can see the personalities. And what it did is showcase the personalities of the players. I mean, Patrick is just entertaining to me because I'm like, I literally was there like, Patrick, I need to come to your school. I need to get some lessons. I want to get down with you. I'm coming to hit. I want you to help me with my game. But then it was also fun to see Ben and Monfils and some of the other players, because they get to showcase their personalities. Guys got their checks. They don't give a damn. And it was funny because I was back in the locker room afterwards, and Francis was back there, and he was talking with everybody, was making their plans about where they were going to go. Yeah. And it was too bad that that everybody didn't get to play. We'd hoped to see everybody play. They didn't get to play, but it's okay. Right. But it was a fun night. It was a great night.
So if you're talking about, getting to see people's personalities, in your opinion, why didn't the Netflix series make it?
Because I think that they told compelling stories the first year, and those compelling stories were great, and we loved them. And I think that the second year, it was still good, but they needed to expand to show us some other people. And also, the thing that really would have helped, Carlos Alcaraz is the face of tennis, but he hasn't developed his personality yet. And I don't think this was made for him. Because you remember, it is made for people want to hear the drama and the juicy stuff that goes along with everything that else is going on. And I think there were lots of stories out there that could have been told. And I think they took a gamble on, going to the top. And he is a fabulous player. He is fun to watch. I don't think that his personality is there yet. And, it's battling with English and getting used to the sponsors and the people tugging at you and the demands of being number one. I spent a lot of time with Kobe Bryant, a lot of time. And for a long time, I didn't understand him. And I was around him, and I didn't understand him. But to be great, it takes so much time, energy, and you cannot. It's that focus that is so narrow. And I remember being out one night and I was eating dinner with some friends, and here comes Kobe out of the back. And I'm like, yo, sit down, have a little, have some cheesecake with us and chill for a second. He's like, I got to go. I got practice. And I was like, dog, you have practice at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. That's silly. Just sit down and have some cheesecake. And then he's like, no, I have practice at midnight. And then I'm going to shoot again at 4. And then I'm going to go to practice at 10.
Wow.
And so that's where you have to understand that greatness, there's a price to pay for greatness. And everybody doesn't want to pay that price. And I understand it. But that's the thing. I think that Alcaraz is so focused right now. And with the others, you had all these different outside interests and storylines and everything. Carlos is like, I'm going to sign some autographs for these people at Nike, and then I got to go back and hit some more. I got to go back and sleep. And that's the only thing. I love the series. I thought it was great. And I think that tennis, because the guys who make that, I talked to them, the guys who put that series together. And I think that tennis, be it the Tennis Channel or whoever, should come in and fund that. The ATP or whoever should say, Netflix, let us pick up the budget. If it was, if it was a $10 million budget, great. We'll find the money, and between the ATP and the WTA, and fund that, because you need to show the faces of your sport.
Absolutely agree. 100% agree. I guess, Kevin, thinking along that line of the Netflix and series, we just had, of course, a movie, Challengers, that came out with Zendaya. Give us your thoughts about that and how it kind of influences and or impacts the awareness of tennis.
I think that people who are Zendaya fans, and that's who's going to see it, are Zendaya fans, really come for the Zendaya of it all and not the tennis of it all. And if you think about the tennis think about tennis movies, okay? And there haven't been a lot of great ones recently, which is too bad. And I was laughing because Zendaya was talking about how they never hit the ball; it was CGI.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing they did with Wimbledon. Kirsten Dunst told me about how they never hit the ball; it was all CGI. Paul Bettany was like, "No, it was all CGI." So it's fascinating that these tennis movies, there's not a lot of real tennis in it. Like my son and I, we fell in love with the Kevin Durant produced series Swagger. And the reason that we loved Swagger was not because it was so great and the acting was so great. It was that they used real basketball players. The kid who played Nick Mendez plays at Vanderbilt. The kid who played Jace, the main character, plays at Fresno State. And so that's the other thing that's kind of interesting, is like, how can we pull in some of the real players, the real action, to add some authenticity to this? That's all. And how can you go learn to really hit the ball? Go and really, let's go learn and hit the ball. But I think Challengers is more of like a fun, it's for you to go watch Zendaya, who I think is going to be a superstar, is already a superstar. I mean, hell, she's chairing the Met Gala, and so let me stop. But I think she's a star and a great actress, and so I just think that I don't know if this is a movie that's going to make you love tennis. You know what I mean? I think this is a movie that you'll love watching Zendaya, and you'll love the little triangle. And but I don't think it'll make you say, "Ooh, I got to go out and hit some tennis balls."
Right. Well, speaking of hitting some tennis balls, I'm just curious, have you hit with some of the other celebrities we know that are into tennis, like Leon, Boris Kojo? Have you played with any of those guys?
So a bunch of different people. I hit with Coco in the Bahamas, Coco Golf.
Nice.
And thank God the wind was blowing. But I hit a couple back and forth, but it was just like, Coco, I was like, Coco, you can hit the ball. And I got in trouble one time at a junket with Chelsea Handler and Maria Sharapova. And Maria did a little soft overhand serve, and I caught it and I threw it back to her, and I was like, serve the ball. And
Come on, Cam.
He was like, who the hell does he think he is? What the hell is this? And I was like, no, girl, you serve it, because I'm gonna get ready to smoke this thing back at you. And so they got really mad at me. And I've hit with okay, so I don't hit with Boris, because Boris can play.
Okay.
Boris will light your ass up. If you want to go ahead and mess with Boris, you go ahead and mess with Boris, but you better be ready to hit the ball. He can hit it.
Right.
And his son Nico can hit it too. He's a basketball player now, but his son Nico can hit it too.
Mhm.
And you know who I played with who really shocked me is I was at an event and I was talking to Reggie Theus, and Reggie was like, "We should go out and play." And I was like, "Well, we'll go ahead and play some doubles then." I was like, "You get your boy, I'm gonna get mine, and let's see what happens."
Right, right.
Man, Reggie came out and smoked us. He beat my butt.
What?
Reggie's 6'6", man. He's 6. When he gets to the net and he got a little touch on him.
What?
All
I
right.
was like, what is this? What is this? And we played on the courts that are in the jungles. If you've ever been in LA, or if you've ever seen the movie Baby Boy, or you've seen I'm trying to think of all the hood movies, but anyway, there are tennis courts right in the jungles, which is considered the most dangerous part of LA. And I used to go play tennis there all the time. And so me and Reggie went out there and we played doubles in the jungles, and it was crazy. But Reggie whooped our butt. It was like 6-1, 6-1. I was so mad. Oh my
Ooh,
God!
he gave some breadsticks. Woo.
Yeah, no, he was. Yo, he can go.
What?
Wow.
And I thought I was gonna come out there and smoke some serves by them. And you know, when you bring your best, you're like, okay, they got one game, but watch, I'm gonna turn my serve up right now. And somebody's on the baseline, they're like, boop. And you're like, that was the Kevin special. That was supposed to kick and go away. And you're like, whoa. And so, yeah, it was wild. But I did once down at Indian Wells, hitting with John Isner. And I was like, well, hit your real serve. And he's like, I'm not going to hit my real serve. I'm going to hit my kick serve. And I was like, I'm going to eat your little kick serve up. The ball bounced and it went over my head and hit the fence. And I was like, what the hell is this? What is that?
Right.
Okay. Hit it again. And I'm like, I'm gonna step up and get this. And I step inside the box, and I thought the ball was coming on this side to my forehead, and it went to my backhand. And by the time I turned and it kicked again, I just watched it go over the fence. And I was like, I'm done. Okay, good. You got it. You got it. Tennis is not for mere mortals. No. Go right on back to the guys I play with. I'll go at them.
Kevin,
so what is your game? What is your game? Tell us, how are you a net player? You're an aggressive baseliner?
So let me say
kick serve?
I was a younger, some of us come to tennis later, but if you're in decent condition, you're like, well, I can just outrun everybody. I can run around and get to every ball and I'm gonna wear you down. And I played with a Babolat now, but I used to play with this thing. Do you remember the thing called the Rip Stick? It was this mono pod. It was extra long. It was called the Rip. It is tragic. It is a tragedy. And I played with the Rip Stick because it was so long that you could scoop up any ball, and also because it had a little flex in that neck, it gave you crazy torque. You didn't have to swing hard. You just had to be like, whoo, and that's it. Like, and so I had the little Rip Stick, and then you realize as you get better and you're able to control the ball, you're like, this is helping me spray the ball all over. The head was massive. It was like if you took the massive head of the biggest head you could think of and put it on a pencil with a handle. Right. And that's what it looked like. And I had to get out of it. Now I play with the Babolats and I love it. And so now I like to sit back and hit with you until I can get to the net. But I'm coming. Eventually I'm coming. And I'm gonna find out what you got. If you can pass me, you better bring it. But I'm coming. And if I get my serve cooking, then I'm coming in after every serve. Then every time I hit a good serve, I'm like, ooh, I'm coming right behind you. Now the problem is, as I'm getting older, it's like, you're like, ooh, I'm tired. Ooh,
right? Come on.
That second set, you're like, I'm not coming in for nothing. Then you realize, damn, I keep popping the ball up in the air. Oh, wow. That hurts your heart. That hurts your heart. When you see those balls and you're like, I would have got to that a year ago. Ooh, 2 years ago, I would have been on top of it. Yeah,
exactly. Kevin, we know exactly what you're talking about, man. Unfortunately, yes. How often do you and the wife get out and play these days, though?
My wife plays more than I do. She is there she tries to, she'll go 2 or 3 times. She'll be there 3 times a week.
Oh,
Me,
nice.
once a week. And it's only because of my schedule. But
Yes.
my sons, oh, hold on, let me hey, I didn't do that. That was my fault. I didn't turn my phone off. It's connected to my computer. But my sons have a young guy who trains them in basketball. He played in New York City, went to school in New York City, played there. Now he's out here doing real estate, but he also trains kids in basketball. And so he saw me going to play tennis one day and he's like, Kev, I can play tennis. And I was like, you've never played tennis in your life, so why would you lie? And he's like, yeah, but I can move, so I know I can get you. And I was like, well, why don't you come on out? Let's go. And I took him out. And I tried to beat him to death when it was like when he was sad and it was, that moment where somebody's like, okay, I overstepped my bounds. He's like, no, we're not going to stop. No, I'm going to keep coming.
We're not
and
done.
So that has been my real tennis thing now, because now he goes out and he practices and then comes back. So when he comes back to train the kids, he's like, Kev, if you want to hit today, we can hit. And I'm like, really? And then there's a woman in his office. She played tennis at the University of Florida.
Oh, okay.
She was a great college player. So then he tried to bring her out to beat me up. And I was like, you can bring her on out. Come on. All y'all, get all your family and friends and everybody. Come on out. Let's see what we're going to do.
That is hilarious.
Yeah,
goodness.
It's crazy.
So Kevin, we're going to take it off of tennis for just a minute here.
Yeah, of course.
We want to go back to your Cincinnati days.
Oh, boy.
Because let me just set the scene for you real quick. Isaac and I actually met in Cincinnati. We were both IT managers for Procter & Gamble.
Yep.
Come on.
And I graduated from high school there, Princeton High School.
Princeton, yes. Come on.
In Cincinnati, Ohio.
I know Princeton High School well.
My mom retired as a high school math teacher there. And we are now. Tell us about your time in Cincinnati, because we all about the roses and graders and what's your food? What was it like for you in the Natty?
Okay, so let me say this. That with Cincinnati was kind of a revelation to me, because when I went there, I was kind of like, let's see how it is. Okay, we come in and do our little time, and then hopefully we move on. Yeah. I fell in love with Cincinnati. I also got to call the University of Cincinnati basketball games with Tom Brenneman and Joe Buck. But really, the city was just great because you have so much high-level college basketball, and that is right in that area. Summers are fun. I lived close to Mount Adams, so I could get up into Mount Adams when I wanted to hang out. And it was interesting because it was a time when Brett Haber, who is now Tennis Channel, was there. Brett Haber was there.
Oh, was he?
Bill Hemmer, who is on Fox News now, was there. And so we had a crew. My buddy Darren Horton, who works for Channel 5 now here. We had a crew of guys who just loved to hang out. And it was just, I fell in love with the city. I was there when Dion was, traded and played for us, and it was great getting to know. That's where I got to know Dion. That's where I got to know Prime. So when I worked with him later at NFL Network and Fox, it was like, we go back, man. Stop. Yeah. But and it's funny because Dion used to walk downtown. You pass him all the time. I don't think people paid attention, but he would walk around downtown during the mornings before he had to go down to the stadium, or in the afternoons if there was no game, and he'd be pushing Shador and Dion Jr. In the stroller. And I'd see him all the time. I'd stop and pull up and we'd go have something to eat. But it was really cool. It was a unique time and place. Coach Huggins, I became very close with Coach Huggins and all the shenanigans at the University of Cincinnati and those players. And I mean, the thing I loved about Cincinnati was that it was at a time where the city was kind of finding itself. It had lived a little bit of a segregated past, and it was kind of finding itself and trying to come out of that madness. The Bengals were awful. They were trash. That was David Klingler. That was just bad team. David Shula was coaching there.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had Achilles Smith. What a terrible draft pick. I mean, bro, you were terrible. And I left when who was the running back that came that it was so good? I mean, my mind today. I mean, I've got too much. I've got overload from Tom Brady
Oh.
and Met Gala and Met Gala stuff. My world are colliding. But the running back who was so good and tore up his knee. Right,
Oh,
the out of Penn State could come Kajana.
yeah.
Was it
Was
Kajana
it
Carter?
Carter? Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it was Carter. Yeah.
Kajana Carter. I think Kajana Carter. And I remember when Kajana Carter arrived and we went to Bengals training camp, and it was one of my last days in Cincinnati. We go to Bengals training camp, and all the players are, it's a break and they're eating. So we're getting ready to go interview people, but we going to get something to eat too. And there's Kajana sitting with his mother and his uncle. And they would come every day to training camp with him. And I was like, bruh, you got your mama at training camp? It was crazy. And I was like, and this is why the Bengals struggled so mightily. It was stuff like that. He was like, bruh, is your mama at training camp? Okay. All right. Okay. But yeah, I love Cincinnati. I love Channel 19, and
Channel 19.
I treasure those days. We started that news at Channel 19. Wow. I remember going on the air for the very first time, and boy, were we bad. Woo! Woo! We were hot. I would say my first 3 months, if you ever find a tape of one of those first 3 months, whoa, don't show it to anybody. Don't let nobody see it. We were terrible. Terrible.
Now, I take it you went to the tennis tournament while you were there, right?
Oh, every year. I went every single year. I loved going out to the tennis tournament. And what people don't understand is it's so oppressively hot because of the humidity. So if you have to play during the day, you want to die. And I remember going out and seeing lots of great matches. I saw Pete Sampras. Who else did I see on the women's side that was really, really? I actually watched Lindsay when she was still playing. I watched her play there, and it was wild to just go out there and see the players because night was great. If you could play at night, it's great. It was the best thing to go out at night and watch it. And it's funny that people don't realize in these smaller venues, you're still seeing the same players play, but it's in smaller venues. And that summer run where they go across the United States, and whether it's New Haven or DC or it's Indianapolis or it's Cincinnati, it's amazing to watch and go out and see those players play and really enjoy tennis at its best because it's the best players in an intimate setting.
Right. Absolutely. We were so happy when we saw that the tournament stayed in Cincinnati.
I thought it was going,
Yeah, I think a lot of people thought it was going.
I thought it was going to go. I really did, but I'm glad it stayed in Cincinnati because Cincinnati has embraced it for so long. I mean, look, let's be honest, it's a little bit of a drive out to that tennis center, but it still is it still is a great tournament. And once again, I urge people, if you can get to one of these tournaments, go and see the stars up close and personal. When I was a kid, and I think one of the things that made me love tennis is that my dad was an assistant for the Knicks for 2 years. And while he was an assistant for the Knicks, we went to the US Open. And it was wild because that was back at the old grounds in Flushing Meadows where everybody had to walk, players had to walk through the crowd.
Right.
And I'll never forget, that was the year of the Renee Richards craziness. And we were walking through the crowd and we bumped right into Renee Richards. And so it was just wild, but it was so cool to see tennis at that point. And it kind of gave me the bug and I understood what it's like because everyone should go and see a Grand Slam. If you've never been to Wimbledon, there is something so precious and special about walking on those grounds, and it blows your mind. I walking on those grounds was like you walk through the gate, and first of all, you're lining up and then walking through the gate, and you're just like, oh. And when you go to main court, when you go to center court, it ain't that fabulous, but it's the history that's there and the magic that's happened there. And so it's one of the coolest places that I just think if you get a chance, go to a major or go to Indian Wells.
Mhm.
Exactly. That's, in fact, you talk Wimbledon. That's the one that we actually haven't been to. Bryce has been to the French, and we both went to Australia, and we go to U.S. Open pretty much every
Wait a
year.
minute, y'all
So
went to Australia?
Yeah.
yeah, back in what,
Wow.
2017, I believe.
Eighteen.
18.
How was that? How was Australia?
Loved it.
Loved
Loved.
it.
As a matter of fact, I will say this. For me personally, it was my favorite of the majors.
Hmm.
When you
Yeah.
include everything, pricing, access to players, matches. Yeah.
Transportation, the whole thing
Yes.
is just so easy. It's so easy.
Mm-hmm.
I I I I think that that is such a unique tournament because you have to commit and go down to Australia for a long time as a player. You're it's not like, oh, you're gonna go and chill. And it's so funny that I was talking to Lindsay Davenport about going down there, and I was like, that's a long ride. I mean, do you were on one of those lie flat planes and all that stuff? And she's like, no, I always flew coach. And I was like, oh, what?
Well,
You flew coach? She was like, yeah, I always
Mm-hmm.
flew coach. I wasn't going to waste the money on a ticket. I'm sorry. I'll get down there and and that's the kind, once again, that's the kind of mentality of a champion. She's like, no, I
Right.
don't need nothing special. I'll see you when I get
Right.
there.
right,
And when I
right.
get
Well,
there, I'm coming with the heat.
well, let me tell you this. When we flew down there on our
Right?
flight was David Lee,
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Mary
Mary
Carrillo,
Carrillo.
Yep.
Brett Haber,
Yep.
Andre Agassi,
Good God.
and when none of them in coach.
No. I knew. No. All the people you named, but nobody was sitting coach there. No. That's why I'm saying it's a different mentality. It's a
Yes.
different
Mhm.
mentality. But yes, it is. It's interesting that you mentioned that because everybody goes at the same time. They get down there, but yeah, everybody's like, "Hey, if I'm not in business class, I ain't going. I'm sorry."
No, we can't. We can't wait to actually get back to the Australian, because
I
that one
would
was
love to go
awesome.
one day. I would
Yeah,
love to go one day. I
got to
would love
hit
to
that
go
one
one day.
up, Kevin. That's for
I would
sure.
love to go.
I want to throw something at you real quick,
Sure.
because again, as we threw at you, you needed some brothers on tennis in your life. I
Yep.
didn't recognize that I needed hip Hollywood in my life. I was not aware. And so, Kevin, I need you to tell the folk out there who were dumb like me about hip
Mhm.
Hollywood, how it came about, what it is, because it threw me, bro. Because I saw that and I was like, what?
Well, this is what's funny is the whole Kendrick and Drake thing that's
Mhm.
going on right now. I get a
Mhm.
call at like 5 o'clock in the morning. And when somebody calls you at 5 o'clock in the morning, you're like, oh God, what happened? Where am I going? Who did something wrong? I got to get on a plane and go somewhere.
Right.
And it's one of the people that worked at Hip Hollywood. And she's like, have you seen what happened? And I was like, no, what happened? And she's like, the interview we did with Lil Wayne has now blown up because Kendrick used it against Drake. Because in the interview, Lil Wayne says, yes, when I was in jail, Drake slept with my girl. And so Kendrick lifted that out and used it for one of his parts of the diss battle. So it was amazing to see that the other day, and like 4.5 million views later. I'm like, okay, let's go.
Right.
And I think that what has happened is, and what we're trying to accomplish with Hip Hollywood was that there are two elements to entertainment. That one, it is to sell things or it's to get exposure. And what you
Mhm.
don't see a lot of in the African American community is that where people just talk about what the projects that people are doing. And it's not like the gossipy craziness of like who slapped who or who's doing what. It's like, hey, this person actually has a movie and you should go see it. And I always like to cite that, Ava DuVernay, when she made her first movie, Hip Hollywood was on the set, and we went and did a set visit. And those are the kind of things that we try to do and accomplish to highlight and illuminate all these things out there that are sometimes, fall away from the mainstream. I work in the mainstream, but I understand what's happening on the fringes. And so that's why it became very important for me to, I think there are a lot of stars and a lot of people out there who get overlooked by the mainstream press. And it's only because, look, we have 20 minutes on Entertainment Tonight, and we got a
Mhm.
lot of stuff to get to. So I understand it, but I mean, there are other things that may appeal to me or other people, and that's what you see that fringe media. But we also want to do it in a respectful way that we are building
Mhm.
something. And along those same lines, we have just built a site that is a travel site that is called SEPI, and it is all
Mhm.
about when you travel, going different places. For the cultural traveler, you can find all these experiences and tours and museums that will allow you to, as a cultural traveler, experience the other side of travel. So many times we
Right.
go to cities and our story is not told. And so SEPI
Mhm.
is a place where you can go and you can actually buy a tour or you can buy a experience. And we've just started it. We're still gathering vendors, but it is
Mhm.
really, that's what it's all about. It is this place where you can go, and for cultural travelers, it'll give you something to see. And it's sepitravel.com. If you get a chance, check it out.
That's what's up right there.
Yeah, that is awesome.
Yeah, no,
Does
I
that
And
sound familiar, Bryce? As far as
to
wanting to give an urban,
right. No,
come on.
that's why I'm here. That's why I'm here. And
yeah.
it's too many times I've gone to different places, and I've come back and somebody said, "Oh, did you go to this and that?" And I was like, "What you talking about?" And I distinctly remember being in London, and I was in London, and there were two things. Number one, the story of Mary Seacole. And Mary Seacole was a nurse from Jamaica. She was a healer. And when she came to London and she wanted to volunteer as a nurse for the Crimean War, Florence Nightingale told her, "Ain't no way. You don't have the right kind of credentials." So she could not work she couldn't work as a part of the as the British nursing, the military nurses. So she still went down to the Crimean War. She served the soldiers. She bought a house where they could come and eat and relax and get away from the lines. But every day they would see her walking down the lines with lemonade and other things to serve the soldiers. So when she came back and went broke, the soldiers took care of her, and they raised
Mhm.
enough money to take care of Mary Seacole. And it's a movie coming out. Gugu Batnra is the stars as Mary Seacole. There was that, and also getting to Brixton in London. And I was like, all these places I don't understand, and nobody's telling me about. And I was like, well, damn it, it's up to me to fix it. And that's what I
Mhm.
love about what you're doing. It's up to you to fix it. And if you
That's right.
don't, then it'll never get fixed.
That's awesome. Well, kind of we're going to wrap this up here because I tell you what, this has been one of the most enjoyable interviews I think we've ever done.
Yes.
But, you being someone who stay around celebrities, right?
Yes.
Uh, I'm curious, has there ever been a celebrity that you met that kind of had you starstruck? Like,
I mean, there are times where you are always starstruck because
mm-hmm,
this is something like you grow up with certain people and you grow up with
mm-hmm,
certain things. Like I'm from Baltimore originally, and Oprah Winfrey came to Baltimore. That's where she worked, and that's where she
yeah,
first got her gig as a talk show host on a show
right.
called People Are Talking with Richard Scher before she went to Chicago. And so the first time I met Oprah, it was like she was floating towards me. It's that aura. And I'll tell you one quick story.
Mm-hmm,
Go to the Image Awards. My girlfriend is my wife is my girlfriend, and we go to the Image Awards, and Prince gets honored. And afterwards, Anthony Anderson is like, "You going to the party?" And I was like, "What party?" And he's like, "At Prince's house." And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, we gonna go." And I was like, "Man, I'm not on the list. I know, we're not gonna be able to get in. You know how that goes." He's like, "Man, just go on up there. Here's their address. Go on up there." So we go drive up to the house, and the guy who is at the guard gate says, "Oh, that's my man from ESPN," because I just left ESPN. He's like, "Yeah, you go on in." We go in, and we walk into Prince's house, and there's Oprah, and there's Stevie Wonder. Joni Mitchell is sitting in the back. Everybody's, there. We're out on me and my wife were dancing a little bit. We're having a good time.
mm-hmm.
And here comes Prince walking right towards us. So I'm like, "Prince, Kevin Frazier, how are you?" Now, my wife is from Minnesota. And for her, it was like Jesus had just walked across the ground. And and I said, "My wife's from Minnesota." And he's like, "Where'd you go to high school?" And she's like, I'm like, "Come on, come on." She's like, "Ah." I was like, "St. Paul Central, man." He's like, "Central, you a Central girl?" And it started this weird friendship with Prince that I would go to his parties. And it was wild because it's still Prince.
Mhm.
And like you would go to his house and he would play music at night, all night. I mean, like Prince would play all night. And it was some of the coolest parties I've ever been to because you're just like, I'm in here with Prince kicking it. And he's playing. And he would invite other musicians in and he would dare them to try and play, along with him. Because
Mhm.
he would get going and he'd be like, dun, 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 dun. Let's change up. Dun, 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 dun. Change it in. Dun, 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 dun. Oh, take it down a notch. Dun, dun, and just mess people's heads up. And it was wild. But one time he had a mariachi band in there with him. And then after the mariachis played, then he had his band set up. And it was like, it was crazy. It was the coolest thing ever.
Oh.
So miss him, but yes, there are moments where you're just like, okay, but then you lock in and you're like, yeah, I'm here to do my job, man. We'll be all right. I'll be starstruck afterwards. Let me lock in.
Well, I think we are experiencing that today with you, sir.
No, come on. This was fun.
I have to
This was
say,
fun.
we appreciate you more than you know, Kevin Frazier. I tell you what, man, thank you so much for engaging with us. And the fact that you were willing to, again, do this interview means a lot.
No, I'll see y'all out at the club. I'll see you out at the tennis club or at the course, right?
Come on,
don't act like you don't know us now.
Don't act like you don't know us now.
Don't act like y'all don't know me, because I'm gonna be with my camera and my little bucket hat on, all incognito, not saying a damn thing, but y'all come on up and be like, "What's up?"
That is awesome.
Yeah,
So, Kevin, before we sign off, any final words? Anything you want to promote? Anything going on?
No, I mean, I think that I just want to thank y'all for having me because, tennis is a game I love and tennis is a game for everybody. And so everybody has to be included. And so what you're doing, because I know sometimes when you have an entity or a platform, it's hard, man. It's hard to get the guests or the promotion or all the things you need. And it's so hard, but don't lose sight of the importance of your message and your faces and people seeing you. When you're out and when you're about, don't ever lose sight of that. So thank you for doing this, y'all. We appreciate it.
Kevin Frazier, all. So we're going to continue to come with plenty of interviews for you guys this summer. Stay tuned in, stay locked in. Thanks once again to our guest tonight, Kevin Frazier. And on behalf of the podcast, this has been your boy Bryce.
And this is your boy Isaac.
And we are Brothers on Tennis. Everyone be well.
Perfection.